Hello and welcome everyone to this author chat with myself, Beverly Clarke, and my colleague and friend, Rebecca Franks. So,
Hi.
hi. So, before I start and going through the session, Rebecca, would you like to talk about, tell our audience about your background, please?
Oh gosh, so I have quite a varied background. So I started as a computing teacher a long time ago now, 2002, I think. And I taught for 15 years or just over. And during that time, I was director of computing. I got an NPQSL qualification, and I was also responsible for pupil premium students as well. Made quite a lot of impact there in my school. Then I left teaching, went to the Raspberry Pi Foundation to do resources for the National Centre of Computing Education. Then I moved into the non-formal space, which I really, really enjoy doing things to do with non-formal computing. And then I left at the end of March and I set up my own company. So I've co-founded it called Flip Computing. And this is an inclusion first computing company, and we want to just make computing a really inclusive place for everyone to enjoy and feel welcome and part of it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We're going to come back and talk about the Raspberry Pi Foundation and flip computing a bit later on.
Yeah.
So I'm Beverly Clarke and I'm a Tech Women 100 award winner. Like Rebecca, I've got a background in teaching. So I taught for just over 14 years in colleges and in secondary school. I also, prior to that, have a background in corporate IT. And I left the classroom formally in 2016. And since then, I've built a freelance career as an education consultant, resource writer, coach, and an author. So we are two women who have changed career pathways, and we combine our career isn't just one thing, it's many different things. And part of this that we've got a commonality in is technology, books, and inspiring young people and children through
Yeah.
and with technology.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
fantastic. So do you want to talk to us, Rebecca, and our audience about any current tech trends that are grabbing your attention?
Oh, you see, now I know you really like AI, and I do like AI, I'm into it, but I feel like it's a little bit at the moment, it's a bit scary. It's a bit of a shiny new toy and all that kind of
Woo!
stuff. So I'm sure we could have sort of like a really cool conversation about AI because I do like it, I do enjoy it. I'm just a little bit nervous of it in terms of bias and that kind of thing, and how we educate children properly about it and educate our parents and ourselves about it and how to use it. So there's a lot going on there. But I think I don't want us to get distracted as well by what is going on at the moment in schools, because there's so much going on and we need inclusion there. We need inclusive learning environments so that young people can thrive, as particularly young people from underrepresented backgrounds in tech.
Mhm.
So AI is fantastic and great, but let's not like get diverted. Let's try and solve this problem down here, and maybe AI can support that at some point, and maybe there's some kind of synergy there with it. But yeah, my fight is still with ensuring that people can have that inclusive learning space and feel like they belong in computing and expose them to all the wonderful careers and things that you can get from computing, or just absorbing yourself and creating something with tech, and just taking your mind off things if that's all you want to use it for. So I think there's a lot to think about there.
That's interesting you say about AI being scary. This is one of the reasons I do talk about
Yeah.
AI, because we've got so much data being used to basically drive AI forward. And I think that everyone, parents, children, teachers, everyone out there is being impacted by artificial intelligence
Yeah.
and the bias that comes with AI systems. Because if we
Mm,
don't understand how the systems are trained
yeah.
and the AI models are trained, then machine learning models rather, then we can't actually question what's going on. So
Exactly, yeah.
yeah, I just say, yes, you may be scared, is everything is autonomous. And I had an encounter with an energy company last night, and for half of it I was speaking to the virtual assistant and I got nowhere. I
Mm,
just experienced an awful lot of frustration.
yeah.
And I thought, a few years from now, when as I get older, will I really be digitally excluded when I'm just typing into this space? I do think we
Mm,
need more and more conversations, and absolutely we need to ensure that systems are accessible by
yeah.
everyone and inclusive. So,
Yeah.
we're flying the flag for women and girls working in technology, and everyone actually understanding the impact that tech has upon ourselves and our wider communities, really.
Yeah, I think that's it. And we need more voices like that, because I feel like it's the voices drowning out AI at the moment are people just saying all these ridiculously, top 10 ways you can do this and top 10. I was just like, I'm so sick of seeing posts like that. Let's start having like better conversations about AI. I suppose that would be more what I would prefer, rather than, the million posts on top 10 whatever you can use chat GPT for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The impact. I'll tell you another trend that's grabbing me. It's around green IT, because green is very big. Climate change, it's affecting all of us in some way, whether it's from, increased, hay fever that I've certainly started suffering from, or if we're
Yeah.
getting animal habitats being disrupted, and all jobs are going to be affected in some way by climate change. And technology, as I mentioned in some of my talks, is a part of the solution and actually a
Mm,
big part of the problem.
yes.
So again, this technology for children. Children need to understand how tech is being used and how it's impacting upon different industries and sectors. So that's another
Yeah.
one that's grabbing my attention.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because there's an organization, I think it's Liverpool based, called Roots and Shoots, that use technology for hydroponic systems.
Fantastic.
So they stack growing plants, and it so that it takes up less space,
Mhm.
and then the technology rotates it round, make sure it's got the right light and all that kind of stuff. So there's loads of technology being used, but in a good way, especially if you're in quite rural, not rural, like city areas, urban
Cheers.
areas, where you've got tight space, that kind of thing could really, really help. So there are places where you can use technology in a green way, but then it's making sure, I guess, as well, that the technology you'll use is sourced ethically, because there are loads of ethical issues with things like lithium batteries, and where are they coming from,
Mhm.
who's making them, and all of that. So it's thinking about that. But yeah, it's finding the balance between making sure the technology is making an impact, but also it's not harming in some other place. A little bit like electric cars, we're not quite sure. You've got electric cars, it's a great because they don't have emissions on the roads, but then somebody's like, you're plugging it into your house, it's powering it. Like if it was powered by green energy, then it is, but if it's not, then there's like an offset there. So it's just about figuring out where's that balance with the technology supporting and hindering, I guess.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. It's a very delicate balance, and I don't
Mm,
think we're actually there as yet. But
no.
so what do you think parents can do to talk to their children at home, and teachers can do in the classroom to increase conversations about technology? So not just computing teachers, because we're both got backgrounds in computing, but any teacher to talk about any of these trends, whether it's AI, whether it's green IT, whether it's cybersecurity. How can we start really talking as parents and teachers to our children?
I think, I know we're going to get onto the conversation of books at some point, but certainly having books to help with that conversation is
Mhm.
is a really good start, because I mean, everyone's trying to navigate this new landscape of AI and climate change and all those kinds of things. And there's a lot of um, anxiety around climate change for young people as well. So it's ensuring that we're educating them, but we're also not you know, putting this fear into them too. We're thinking about giving them agency, like how can they change? But then I always think back to when I was a kid, and I remember I got taught about climate change in the 90s in my science books. And I remember being told that oil would run out in 20 years, but I don't think it has run out yet. I don't know if we found some more oil or something like that. But we were told about the greenhouse effect and CO2 emissions and all that kind of stuff,
Mm.
and litter and don't drop litter and recycling. And we learnt it all, but our generation doesn't seem to have made much of an impact as we would expect. So, you know, we can't leave it up to our children, like to educate them, because it's almost going to be too late at that point if we just
Mm.
leave it to our children to make a difference. So we have to go all the way through the generations to actually make a change. So yeah, being able to have books that we can educate parents and those older generations, and then work with young people together on projects of improving things in their own communities, is probably a good way to start.
Absolutely. Yes, I agree with that. I don't think oil has run out. I mean,
No.
just South America and Guyana, which was formerly British Guyana, and the eastern tip of South America's oil reserves just been discovered offshore there.
Yeah.
So there is a boom going on down there with around oil. So, you know, we're hearing it's running out, but yet more is being found. So
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
know where the truth is somewhere there. But actual books. So we've both started authoring children's books and other books. We've both written for adults many, many times over, but with the focus on children and parents. So one of the, for example, I created a series in a pandemic, which is called The Digital Adventures of Ava and Chip. And this is book 2, Self-Driving Car. And I'll just show you my favorite page here. And it's with people doing different jobs. So modeled on me, you can see mom there with her children. And this one addresses things like automation, self-driving vehicle technology, image recognition, which then has
Mm,
that intersection with artificial intelligence.
yeah,
And I think that if we start reading for pleasure at bedtime or at any other time, you know, at the seaside, in the garden, and technology is normalized. So you mentioned that thing of AI being scary. Well, instead of having an AI robot that's sort of, you know, destroying things, how
yeah,
about reading a nice story about going on an adventure and interacting with technology in a positive way, but then
yeah,
also asking the questions about, you know, where are the dangers? What do I need to be aware of? What jobs can I do? Because you mentioned careers earlier. So
mm,
there's, I think, reading for pleasure. I'm really big about reading for pleasure and demystifying technology. And I think
yeah.
you've written, well, tell us about your books also.
Oh, well, the first book that I did was Willow Finds an Egg. And the reason that I wrote this book was a little bit like, I didn't know when I was young, there wasn't a book like this when I was a kid, and I didn't really understand that coding was a thing or it could be a
Mm.
career or anything like that. So I wanted to have a book that I would have picked when I was a kid, but also my daughter was when I wrote the book was around the same age of Willow, so it is kind of based on her, and a little bit of her personality is in there too. But she's 13 now, so she's grown up a little bit since I wrote the book. But I wanted it to be a storybook first of all, just with a nice story about overcoming challenges. But then I actually put in links to scratch blocks. So you can actually see that there are some scratch blocks on here. Um, so you'll see sort of a bit of reading code and tracing code going on in the book, but it's very sort of part of the storytelling. It's not like, and now you're going to type this and click this, and this is this, you know, it's very much just part of the story. And the idea is that someone would a young person would read this book, and then it might inspire them to have a go at coding, and then you can go onto my website as well and have a little go at coding too as well if you want to, but you don't need to. It's just a book that you would hopefully just enjoy as a book by itself without the coding side, but it might prompt that. sort of inspiration potentially.
Yeah, I'm a fan of, because that's pointing behind me
Oh,
to my bookshelf. I mean, it's, our books are suitable for ages 7 to 11, and anyone, so parents can learn alongside their children, or younger siblings can also learn
yeah,
about technology. And I should say that your book utilizes the Scratch coding language, and that's free to download
yeah,
also.
yeah.
So, there's no additional ask on parents there. You could just interact, go to a Scratch website and just
Hmm.
start using it, really. And it's easy to use. So yeah, I mean, my first book was Smart City. So the stories that Ava and Chip are involved in, the adventures rather, are all set against the backdrop of a smart city. And a smart city isn't a distant land of strangeness. We're all utilizing smart technology
Yeah,
in our everyday lives. So it's, talking about cameras and data collection, because there are cameras all around us, and, all that data is being collected. How is that data being then changed into information, or sometimes manipulated? So,
mm,
and what's the impact upon us? There are lots of conversations that parents can have with their children as they
yeah.
read these books together. And then I think we'll get rid of that fear around technology. Now, just moving along, who's inspiring you at the moment in tech?
Well, I mean, like we were discussing this earlier, and I was just like, I sort of flip between lots of different people, and like whenever anyone asks my role model or who I inspire, like I find it very difficult to come up with a name. I don't know what it is, but I will say who my favorite. She is a tech person, Sherry Aitchison, and she actually wrote the book Demanding More, and this book, it it is so good, and I recommend it to everybody that I speak to, because it educates you so much about what people from underrepresented groups experience
Mhm.
in life and in tech, and also what we can actually do about it, like how can we action that, so, and it does make you a little bit angry, it makes you feel a little bit guilty sometimes as well reading the material, but it makes you want to take action and actually make a change. And like, I guess that's why the title is Demanding More. Let's demand more from our education system and all of those kinds of things, so that we can all be more involved in computing and technology, so that we're all having a seat at the table, we're all having these conversations, we're all actually making a difference and contributing, rather than just this subset of people that just seem to be having the same conversations all the time but not actually wanting to make a difference. So I would say, this is the person who inspires me the most, I guess. And her book is awesome and everyone should read it.
Oh, fantastic! Now that's a great review right there, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
When you were talking, it's reminded me, one of the roles that I have as a trustee of the Learning Foundation, and one of the initiatives of the Learning Foundation is the Digital Poverty Alliance. And we're
Mm,
working towards ending digital poverty in
yeah.
by 2030. And part of this is the different groups of people who are digitally excluded.
Yeah.
And so when you said that, that literally just struck a chord with me, because I do feel that we need everyone to be participating and understanding that
Yeah.
impact of technology upon them. So I'd encourage anyone to go to the Digital Poverty Alliance website and have a look, and make a pledge as to what you can do to
Mm,
personally to help end digital poverty. So it could
yeah.
be to buy a book and to give to someone, or to just raise awareness, or to run a club, just to get involved, because this is a really big thing, technology, that's changing all of our lives. And I think we're just literally scratching the sort of the tip of it, really. I mean, we need to just drill down a bit further. Now,
Hmm.
I've got someone to share with you that she inspires me a lot. I heard her speak. I'm a bit of a fangirl, and it's Anne Marie Imafiden, and her recent release is She's in Control. Now, Anne Marie describes herself as beginning as a curious child and taking apart a video cassette player was her first sort of foray into exploring tech. But then the book builds, and I encourage parents to read that and teachers to read it, and to consider how they can just engage with young people a lot more around tech. So she's got, I won't spoil it for anyone, but there's lots of stories there on how tech is being used in a non-geeky way, because one of the problems we've got with technology is that it's presented by a sort of, it's a certain look of certain people that work
Yeah,
in tech, and
yeah,
that's just not true. I mean, we both work in tech and we don't
yeah,
fit some of the stereotypes out there.
yeah.
So I'd say Anne-Marie's book, it really just it looks at technology. It isn't
Mm,
complete to science, it's technology. And I really like that focus
yeah,
on technology, because technology affects all of us.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's that's one of my winners there. So the Avon Chip may meet Willow one day.
I know we was, yeah, I think that would be a quite a nice little pairing there if they could go into each other's worlds, and like maybe Ava and Chip learn about some coding and Willow learn about AI because she was a bit scared about it potentially. Who knows?
Yeah, I think there's a synergy there. We have to watch this space and see
Yeah,
what happens.
absolutely.
Now, what's next for you? I think there are a few other projects that you're involved in currently.
Yeah, so being co-founder of a brand new startup is quite tricky. There's challenges that go along with that. I'm absolutely loving it though. I really, really enjoy it, being able to choose what I'm doing every day. And I feel like I have a real opportunity here to make a difference and do that action work rather than the talking. But yeah, I mean, so far our company, it's like so we've created a book called 101 Unplugged Activities for your Coding and your STEM Club. And there's just tons. Now, this isn't when we say unplugged, there is a little bit of that semantic wave stuff. I don't want to go into too much detail about what that is in case our audience aren't aware what that actually is. But it's sort of unpacking things, bringing it into the real world, and then bringing it back to the code or whatever the technology that you're using. So there's a little bit of that, but actually it's more about collaboration and teamwork and fun things you can do to get people working together. And these are like really quick ideas. And then more recently, we actually we went to Liverpool Make Fest the other weekend with actually was actually the first resource that's in this book, where young people could create characters, and they followed our instructions, they created those characters, and then they all appeared together in like a collaborative art animation installation, and they really enjoyed doing that. And a lot of the parents were saying, I'd like love this to be in a book because like my child is really, really absorbed in what they're doing, and I want to be able to carry it on at home. So we turned actually our resources into a book and then made a few extra characters as well on the front. So this is something that we're really passionate about in terms of when we say inclusion first, it's about making that it's about we've called it flip computing because we want to flip the narrative on computing, that it's not about changing girls, and like manipulating them to enjoy computing or anything like that. It is like, let's just make the subject really enjoyable, and then I'm sure at that point girls will enjoy it. And we saw that at Makefest because it was around 70% girls that sat and did our resources. So we know it works. We know that this style works, but we weren't there, with a big flag or anything saying girls computing or anything like that. It was just we made the environment inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a good diverse mix of people that were there working on our materials. So we were really, really proud of that. So we can see that it's going to work. We see that there's something in it, and that's what the company is going to develop over time, is just get better in that, and then hopefully link it to all the wonderful exciting careers that are out there that aren't the typical software engineer. You can be a software engineer sitting in the dark doing some code with a hoodie on. It's not like that. It's lots and lots of fun and collaboration, and you can really make a difference with technology. And the wider amount of people that do it, the better experience everyone's going to have at the end point as well when they're using the technology that people have created too. So it's a bit of a long-winded way saying we don't really know exactly what we're doing, but we know that we're on the right path.
It sounds absolutely fantastic to me. I should say you use the word unplug there. Now, just for anyone listening, unplug means not on a computer
Yeah,
effectively.
yeah,
So it's suitable for home learning, for
yeah,
in the classroom. That's a teaching tool, flip
yeah,
computing. And then we've used a couple of acronyms I'm just going to demystify. So STEM, science,
yeah.
technology, engineering,
And mathematics.
mathematics. Okay, so STEM and STEAM. When we put the A in, is
Yeah.
for the arts. So it's basically covering all subject areas. And I
Mm,
like this. Technology is the umbrella term that I tend to use.
yeah,
Because we've got way too much of just, oh, let's just get girls in. Well, let's ensure that what we're offering
yeah,
is, available. This is one of the um, available for everyone. And this is one of the reasons that I wrote Ava and Chip, because I thought, well, I'm a woman in tech. There's nothing special you need to do for me. You need to make it an inviting environment. And
yeah,
when my children were little, I would take them out and about. So let's just write the story from my perspective.
yeah,
So, and it's coming from our hearts, really, and the
absolutely.
difference that we want to make in technology. And just coming to the end, but I just like our listeners, thank you for listening to this. And we are also, Rebecca and I, are looking at ways of getting our technology books and technology books for others out into basically the whole world we love. But we're
Yeah,
starting with England for the time being. So if anyone wants to collaborate with technology books, and if there's any funding out there, just reach out to us, because we want to get technology books into the hands of the children that need it most, so
yeah,
that everyone is reading for pleasure around technology, is engaged in activities around technology, and very importantly, I feel, starts questioning technology, so that we start getting the best from it. So
hmm,
systems are made for everyone, and they're inclusive,
yeah,
and we just have a better society. Hopefully we can move to a better place than we've all been before.
yeah, absolutely.
But I'll hand over to you for few closing words.
Well, thanks for asking me for this chat. I've really enjoyed it actually. Yeah, and really it is just about, spread the word, and hopefully people can support us and get involved in our mission too, and our sort of slightly different approach to things that people might not have seen before, but we know works. But yeah, to get involved wherever you can.
Excellent. What are your websites?
Oh gosh. So flipcomputing.com does exist, but at the moment it's not really doing much, but it will do in the next couple of months. So flipcomputing.com is where you would look for anything to do with that. I also have computingtextbook.co.uk, which is a textbook for Key Stage 3. There's a bit of Key Stage 4 on there as well, which people can go on and teach themselves computing curriculum if they wanted to. And also I've got my willowcodes.com, which partners up with the book too. So you can just do the resources that are on the website, or if you want to buy the book, then they do work together, which is nice.
Fantastic. And I'll also say with my stuff, you can find beverlyclarkeconsulting.co.uk. You can find my consulting work there. With Ava and Chip, avachipbooks.com. And I'll put all of this up on the ending screen to this chat that we're having here today. You'll also find the Ava and Chip books in the Sue Atkins Book Club, run by TV parenting expert Sue Atkins. So that's a Sue Atkins recommended book. The books are recommended in her book club. And you'll also find them in the Small Business Sunday group run by former Dragon's Den entrepreneur Theo Paphitis. So we've had a few awards won for some of our work. So you could find us out there. So if you'd like to get in touch with either one of us across social media or via our websites, and we look forward to taking our message around technology to a wider audience. Thank you
Absolutely.
very much, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining and listening today.